not one of those types of movies that is like fun.
You're not going to cheer, you're not going to celebrate.
I mean, there's a few moments that I'm sure some people
All
would cheer.
including Paul Fitzgerald. Any of the moments where people cheer, it's Paul.
But when we were first talking, actually when you were first talking about it, when you were writing to us at the movie Crypt, and when we talked outside the Phoenix, and you had an impetus for this idea even then, and you just talked about how when we introed, how this is, up to this point, your most personal film.
Yes.
And I mean, your heart is on your sleeve and your spleen and your arse, and it's all over.
And I will say, it is in a lot of ways my most personal film, but at the same time, what it really was about for me was about the women of Ireland, because they've had to endure so much for so long, and nobody's kind of told that story in a certain way. Like kind of really
that's the thing though, it's like, and you can tell from the statistics that's in the beginning, which I wanted to ask about, but also the very poignant title card at the end. Maria is
man,
we don't
I'm
have to
definitely
talk
gonna
about it.
No, I will, because it actually ties back into another
If
short
you're
film.
gonna look, if you're going to, and we're recording this, so some people who have not seen the film yet, we'll dive into spoilers a little bit. But
in regards to the Maria thing, that has nothing to do with the film. And I made a short film in 2016 called The Cheese Box, which played at Cannes in 2016. And
this guy.
I know. What a dick, right? What a dick. I have a Cannes hat I have a Cannes hat that I wear everywhere. Be like, oh, so it was a Cannes. But that film was about how in Ireland, up to 1980, probably much later, but 1980 is my barometer. If there was a baby stillborn in Ireland, it would not allow them to be buried in a graveyard because, well, they didn't get their original sin removed. So, and my sister Maria was stillborn in 1980, and my mother was not allowed to bury her in a graveyard with her family. So my uncle had to steal out in the middle of the night and break into a graveyard and bury her alongside my grandparents. And The Cheese Box was very much about that. But when I made this movie, I said, it's still, because this movie is very much, and I don't like to say this, but it's very much a fuck you to Catholicism and the stranglehold it had on Ireland for so many years.
Happy Sunday!
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, like, and you've been traveling around with the film now, we can talk about the production, but we can talk about that later also, but like the fact that you are here in the States now with this film, which can and will be controversial in its politics.
Absolutely.
And knowing that, the politics in Ireland and the politics that you've been, like screening this film within that construct, and I gotta admit, when you're dealing with heavy issues like this, hot button issues, you do run the risk of losing your audience, for one reason or another. Sensitivity, there are some very disturbing moments for anyone who has been through it or has even thought about it. What has it been like in your journey in bringing this film around the world?
I'll tell a very quick anecdote about I screened at a festival in London in November, and at that festival a woman came up to me and told me that she was from Barbados, and she explained that in their culture, she said, in my culture, my mother wouldn't have kept me out of my house, my mother would have murdered me. Like literally, she's like, that's not an exaggeration, my mother would have killed me. Which blew my mind, because I thought it was bad enough what was happening back home. And then when I heard that, no, this is big, it goes further. And she explained to me that she had an abortion 30 years previous. She was in her 40s, and she explained that she had an abortion 30 years previous, and that she had never told another living soul, not a psychologist, not anybody. She said, because in her culture, she was so told to believe, you will never tell anybody about this. And she told me at Unrestricted View Horror Film Festival in London, and that was the first moment where I really realised how she had a totally different read on the film than I did, and it brought her a lot of closure. And it was a different read to what I intended, but I was never going to say, no, you're wrong, that's not what the film's about. I was like,
welcome to being a filmmaker.
Exactly.
When your opinion is not your opinion anymore.
It's what
theirs.
you take from it, exactly. And that woman took what she wanted from the film, and it helped her deal with that issue that she's been struggling with for 30 years. And that was the single best experience I've had. Other experiences include in London, in England in general, there was kind of a younger audience who, in the UK, abortion is legal, and it's been legal for like 30 years. And they were just in shock, in absolute shock and dismay that this is not an option, that's not something that...
So they walked in thinking, this movie's gonna be 30 minutes, we're gonna be wrap this shit up and move on. No, there's clearly more to it than that.
Yeah, and at the same time, right, look, I have my own views, and I have my own personal opinion on things, which is very much, for me, leans into the pro-choice side of things, but I never wanted this film to be a preachy propaganda piece about, you know, a preachy propaganda.
Well, you could have done that very easily.
I did in the first and second draft. It was awful.
Well, that's what I wanted to know, but you had to go on a journey to almost realize in the script stage that this movie could have done without the creature element, the supernatural
Oh,
element.
it could have, yeah.
It could have been more like Repulsion in a way.
Or
where
straight
it's like,
drama. Yeah.
Exactly. Where did these more supernatural elements come into play? Because it does, like all great genre films, using a monster as a metaphor in one form or another is somewhat of sugar to make the medicine go down, or to get your point across without it feeling too heavy.
I mean, for me, in one hand, it's really a case of I kind of came to my producers and went like, I want to have my cake and I want to eat it too, because I want this to be like a Ken Loach.
And they showed you the budget, that there is no budget for cake.
I do understand that there is no cake on the shoot.
I know.
You got sandwiches. Shut up, motherfucker. You got sandwiches.
We're gonna get to you, Fatso. This guy outside's like, I gained a lot of weight for this role. I'm like, I don't care. Like, show me that you can act well. I'm sorry, I'm kidding.
I was like, I want this to feel like a Ken Loach film.
Like, absolutely. I was gonna say,
Yes.
like, if Ken Loach, there's that like almost Shane Meadows kind of feel to there's a neo-realism to a lot of the film.
Yeah.
Just from that opening shot when you're following behind her, going into the airport, and the shot feels very chaotic in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately, by using that kind of aesthetic, I don't know if you guys felt this way, but like I know that I wasn't being immersed into, like, say, the opening of Suspiria, where it's like, this is a fever dream.
Yeah.
No, this is a fucking nightmare.
And it's funny because I leaned over to you at one point, Jerry, and I went, oh, by the way, in about like a minute and a half, this is going to go like full cheek. Wait for it. It's
I was sitting there going, I don't need to have you tell me this, dude. And by the way, when you go full cheek, it's just called full cheek.
Yeah.
Just
good. I got it.
You're welcome. But you, like, that's the thing. There is such a balance that you have to create with a film that if someone was not looking at the program or knowing that this was a genre festival of sorts, you could go into this film having zero clue. And that's what's the beauty of film festivals too, is doing that. But then 2/3 of the way in, or even before, like the first moment that whatever the fuck that monster baby thing is,
his name is Stephen Jeopardy.
It looked like the aborted version of the Poltergeist 2 worm monster.
Yes.
So like, and I was like tipping my hat to you. But the first time that comes on, I physically went like, what the fuck? Like, because you have to.
It's a heightened realism at that point. So
yeah, and you start playing with with editing and nightmarish qualities, and trying to create a world for her to fall into, and then that nightmare. So
and I just want to give it for a second because you just mentioned her, which is Courtney McKeown, who plays the lead of
Sarah, right? Oh, she's amazing.
Courtney is phenomenal. She's one of the most amazing actresses I've ever worked with.
Where did you find her?
We made a film called The Three Don'ts. It was my first feature film. It's on Amazon Prime. It's probably not worth watching. No, I'm joking.
It's a good salesman.
It's the Irish self-deprecation, you know what I mean? No, but Courtney, I worked with her on a bunch of stuff. I did a short film called Retribution, which is pretty good, and it's about it's kind of like a kill list homage, I guess.
Nice.
And in that, Courtney was in that. She's been in a bunch of my stuff, and it's funny because I actually pitched this movie, and this is not a joke. I swear on my fucking life.
He's lying.
I swear on my fucking children's lives.
Oh shit.
That I pitched this, I sent this to Saoirse Ronan's agent, and I said, hey, how do you feel about this for Saoirse? How you doing? And they went, Saoirse is more interested in dramatic projects at the moment.
You should have just ripped the last third of the script out and just said the first, and she would be like, man, fuck,
I was
fuck
like-
all those Little Women.
But no, I was like, I fucking saw it. I said, do you know what I saw she with Neil
Yeah.
Jordan? Fuck you, she's good. She can do it.
Yeah.
But what was interesting was Courtney now tells the story that she beat the fuck out of Saoirse Ronan to get this role.
That's a lot more romantic. Print the legend. Yeah, print the legend. Well, we are also lucky to have another member of the cast.
We are.
I
Beautiful.
want to bring him up. Paul, come on up on stage.
Get up here,
because-
motherfucker.
Look at this guy. Look how svelte he is.
He's the handsome one. He's the handsome one.
It is a thrill to have you here, and it's also a thrill to watch you collectively just steal the movie, from everybody in those moments. We were talking before about tone, and we were talking before, before we started recording, about how you were getting notes about the film.
Yeah, it's from Paul McAvoy.
From Fright Fest.
Yeah.
And how he was kind of suggesting.
Uncomfortable with the humor.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there is a world where, that kind of humor, but it's true though, like, there's a world and there's a cut of this movie that I could see somebody, Harvey Weinstein, want to trim all of that because they want to keep, everything's got to be serious.
Serious.
I need an Oscar this year, goddammit.
Yeah.
That was a 1997 quote from Harvey Weinstein. So when you're getting like into this role and realizing on page, I'm sure it's heavy as fuck. But like, how did you gauge your performance to be as naturalistic as possible, and also just have levity? Like it's just such a tough balance.
First of all, thank you. And hello, everybody.
We had the bar all night.
Yeah, here all night.
The other
Here all
bar,
night.
and also the bar down the block.
No, but to answer your question, for me, The Parish, it is a horror film, but it's an exaggerated version of the truth. The mass baby grave in Tune, that really happened. Abortion illegal, that really happened. For me, with Sarah's character, Courtney, who I'm friends with Courtney. I did a play with Courtney about a year before we shot this film, and that was one of the reasons I was cast in the movie, was the natural chemistry we had together.
There's a moment when she's across the street and she breaks down into tears and you guys hug. That felt so lived in.
Yeah.
It felt like you guys knew it wasn't like you were acting. It was
Yeah.
story.
But no, just to go back to the community aspect, like, I wanted David, my character, to be real. He's the best friend. He's fun. If you're very friendly with someone, you'll rip someone. You'll be natural with someone and be fun with someone. And
Try to make them laugh.
exactly,
And in the worst situation possible.
Precisely, that's precisely it.
And just to jump in quickly, that's why the moment where you lose your shit at her and shout at her and get so in her
She's
face,
a bitch.
but that moment is so powerful. That moment is so powerful because you've been the funny guy. You've just been having a laugh at her. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna drink. We're gonna have a fun time. And when you scream at her in that room, it's suddenly like, oh fuck,
Yeah.
she's gone so far.
And on that moment, when we did that scene, Paddy came over to me and was like, fuck, dude, that hit me home because that reminds him of his own relationship with his own wife. And that was, I went from that
It's
relationship, I had my own ex-girlfriend and a relationship from my parents. So that, it felt real, and that was from the direction and from the writing. And yeah, it was amazing. It was an honor to be a part of this project.